Hey there, Bishop here, back with another video. This time, we're talking about the Eastern Front. So, what was the Eastern Front? The Eastern Front was the Eastern Front line of the Second World War against the Soviet Union. On one side was the Soviet Union and minor regimes along with it that include Mongolia and the Tanatuvan Republic, which no one cares about. And on the German side, there was Germany, there was an Italian army, a very small Italian army, and then there were the Hungarians, Romanians, and the Bulgarians to some extent. So we're going to talk about the Eastern Front in this video, which is a continuation of my Second World War American involvement. We're going to be covering different topics in the Second World War. So we will start in 1941. 1941, the Germans broke the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact and attacked the Soviet Union in a surprise attack along the Stalin Line, and the unorganized Soviet armies were still suffering from military purges and misuse by an untrained general staff. German assaults were initially extremely successful, resulting in destruction of Soviet aircraft and the encirclement of armies along the front line in places like Kiev and eastern Poland. These attacks were extremely successful and followed up by pushes deep into Soviet territory, but this is Soviet territory, so there's lots of territory to push into. Of course, Stalin has lots of armies, so immediately army groups are redispatched, but they continue to be surrounded due to Stalin refusing to allow anybody to fall back. The Germans continued to push forward, and for most of 1941 results in battles of attrition, followed in large pockets where Soviet troops are holding out as the Germans continue to try to push on through the summer. So they push up north and encircle Leningrad and begin to siege down the city. They push down south to not that far in about the middle of Ukraine up to Kiev, and in the center push up almost to Moscow. But crucially, divisions were moved down south to help secure Ukraine away from Moscow. Eventually, of course, summer would come to an end with autumn and the rain season, and there would be mud followed by frozen ground, and the Germans didn't have any winter clothing. It wasn't any good. It was not any good. So what happened next is Germans proceed to get pushed back during the winter due to a crack in elite Siberian winter troops getting pulled off the Japanese front in the Russian Far East and transferred over. About 500,000 men. Crack Siberian winter troops able to hold out stop the Germans in the dead of winter, which was good. So what happened next? 1942, of course, the Germans go, it's fine. Spring and summer are back. It's time for the new summer offensive. And, of course, the spring offensive. So they shift a bunch of army groups down south to cut off Soviet oil. And they proceed to spend all the spring and summer running through to places like Sevastopol, Kiev, and on to the great gates of Stalingrad, moving with them are the Romanian armies. So they arrive at the city of Stalingrad, which Stalin was like, I'm going to hold this city, and Hitler's like, I'm going to take the city. So a huge battle of attrition is fought there. You know, house to house, room to room, street to street, extreme close quarters fighting. Of course, the Germans eventually do win and capture the city, but not before the Soviets pushed back the weaker Romanian armies and cut off an entire German army group, like a quarter of their entire fighting strength in the city. Then they proceed to destroy the city after numerous attempts by the Germans to air supply them and break them out of the pocket. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So they get stuck there, and they all die, and a bunch of generals are captured. Then, of course, the Germans they still got some fight left in them, and they realize that if they just need to win one good battle to get themselves back on their feet, it kind of reverses on the Eastern Front. That's the Battle of Kursk. So the German front line at this time had stabilized if they had been pushed back out of Ukraine. There was a large salient, as it's called, at the city of Kursk. The German general staff wants to launch an offensive there, but Hitler goes, no, we should not launch an offensive there. General staff goes, come on, dude. He goes, fine. But he was very worried about this offensive. So the German general staff plans a huge offensive with tanks to pincer it from both sides and make another, encirclement and cut off like another Soviet army group and kind of trade. But the Soviets learned about it, and they managed to practically stop defensive operations so they know when it happens, and in the process destroy lots of German tanks. So that was their last chance. And then after that, they kind of held out, but their D-Day happened, and so they had a weakened army group in the center. And so on the eve of the anniversary of Operation Barbarossa in 1944, we Soviets launch a huge counterattack and destroy the entirety of Army Group Center, leaving only 2 operational army groups. Of course, one of the army groups is to actually retreat up into Latvia, hold down, if I remember, they retreat there to keep waters open for submarine trading, actually. It's one of the army, not even one of the army groups, one of the armies from the army group. The only one that's like successfully retreat there. It was no good. So the Germans lose a lot of resources and get pushed back into Poland and continue to get pushed back rapidly through Poland. Romania leaves. They start getting cut off in the Balkans. There's the Vienna offensive. Vienna falls. And they're just getting rapidly pushed back on all fronts by an extremely strong Soviet army, which at this time had developed their T-34 tanks, all their infantry, new weapons, equipment, new tactics. Everything had just a very general improvement. And meanwhile, for the Germans, it had gotten bad. They had like no equipment left. Fanatic generals. The situation was not looking good for them. So what happened? Why the Soviets stopped the offensive along a river right outside of Berlin. It's called the Oder River. So they're just holding up there and preparing a huge offensive operation to capture Berlin for like a couple months. So a couple of months later, they launched their assault, and the Battle of Berlin begins. A long-fought battle. That was the last battle in Europe that would be fought mainly. That resulted in the Soviet capture of Berlin street by street, like fighting at Stalingrad. It results in, of course, the capture of the city and the hoisting of the flag over the Reichstag and Hitler having to commit suicide. So he doesn't get captured by Soviets. And that's the Eastern Front. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. More uploads soon. This channel's not dead yet. Thanks for watching. Bye.